Hi there, welcome to another episode of SidekickTV. In this episode, I'm joined by long-term friend and business colleague Paul Garner. We've been working together for probably over 10 years now when he was an ANZ banker and now through to him being a broker. So in the episode, we discuss what's kind of going on at the moment for small business owners and self-employed, what their options are when it comes to banking and finance, and ultimately what they should be doing to make sure that they are ready to take on this coming year. So stay tuned. Cheers. Hi there and welcome to another episode of Sidekick TV. I'm your host Ric Thorpe, and today I'm joined by Paul Garner, a mortgage broker based in Christchurch.
Thanks for having me here today, Ric.
No, absolutely great. Now, Paul and I have worked together for probably close to 10 years. Paul was an ANZ banker doing business banking 10 odd years ago. And at the time when we worked so closely together on just a countless amount of clients. And so we've got a great working relationship. And so when it comes to business finance for, our target market being small business owners, entrepreneurs, self-employed around New Zealand, we've just got a great history of working with Paul. So what I thought would be great would just get a real lay down of what's going on right now in the current market. Yep. All clients are talking about is kind of finance and how expensive it is and all of that. But I thought from yourself, Paul, what are you seeing out there? What's going on at the moment?
Thanks for having me here, Ric. Great to be back in here, and obviously long-term relationship. I think I was probably about 15, 20 kilos lighter when we first met as well. So in terms of the market we're seeing at the moment, my specialty is business commercial, self-employed income, and then that kind of crosses over with self-employed people into the residential side. So owner-occupied, holiday homes, investments, developments and so forth. So all interlinked. But at the moment we're seeing it's bloody hard out there for business, and anyone in business, I would say, hat off to you for navigating the last sort of 3-4 years. It hasn't been easy across the board, cost of freight, fuel, insurance premiums, staff, interest rates, just to manage that. But what we're seeing at the moment is those that are prepared and have put in that grunt work, working in with good people, are getting out the other side. So they're having to overcome a bit of adversity in the market at the moment, in multiple challenges, but those that are prepared are reacting pretty positively. They know what the next 12, 24 5-year plan is, and they're being able to respond timely and making sure that it's cost effective too.
Yeah, great. And that's the key thing there, isn't it? It's around planning. No one likes to do a sad spreadsheet. Yep. Right? No one wants to do that budget where it's like, oh, this year's tough. But doing it, at least you can face it. You know what's coming.
Exactly, and it's more around the forecasting or what's ahead. It's not just for the purpose of a bank lending. It's let's set goals of what we're wanting to achieve and how we're going to do it, and then that's the blueprint of what we're going to go and do, not just to get something across the line. And the key probably difference I've seen is those that are working in with their accountants, their brokers, their bankers, their lawyers, they're being able to go, hey, look, this is what we're planning on doing, this is what we've come across, let's react pretty quick, mitigate what's going on here, and actually navigate these challenging times without, as much stress. They can go home, they can focus on being with the family, not thinking about work, put your head down on the pillow and bloody sleep rather than, constantly. And as business owners and self-employed people, you take a lot of that home with you. And a lot of that stuff can be avoided with that preparation beforehand. So, prior preparation prevents piss poor performance, and that's what we do see at the moment.
Yeah, dead right. This scenario now is reminding me of an episode of Sidekick TV, which we'll link to here, where it was my dad that I interviewed. So another guy I've known for quite a long time. And you see, at the time, we thought that COVID was happening, the writing was on the wall, that this is going to happen, that's going to happen, da 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 da. And then we just had this mental economic stimulus for the last kind of 3-4 years. Now it's kind of coming home to roost. And so some of the lessons there were plan and expect it to be bad.
Yep.
Expect it to be a sad spreadsheet, right? Cash is absolute king. You've got to have it. You've got to have availability of funds. You've got to keep the wheels turning. But this is probably a time where if you've got it, equity, just kind of forget about that for a while. You're probably going to lose some equity. But if it keeps the lights on, and is that kind of, are people coming to that realisation now that especially when they are borrowing, when they're trying to obtain funds or what have you? They're willing to give a little bit on this hand to gain on that hand?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the overview of how tricky things have been, and when you talk about cash flow is king. But what I'm saying is we're not just focusing on one core. So we'll sit down and we'll review a business and we'll say, hey, look, based on the performance of the business over the last 6 to 12 months, this is a lending year, or it might not be a lending year. So based on performance, that kind of rolls into what our options are and what we're planning to do. So a lot of the stuff we're doing at the moment is there might be a refinance with a buffer to, I guess, better working capital facilities. Instead of aggressive sort of 5-year terms of business loans, we might be able to put a portion against the house, push that over a 10-year term, just little bits and pieces that we can overview. We can look at a bigger picture and say, hey, look, there's no point in paying off debt in an aggressive manner right now. Interest rates are too high. You're sitting there going, I'm making all this money, financials are looking good, the accountant's saying it's good, but I've got no money. And that's a common theme that we're seeing, and it doesn't need to be like that. But again, it's going to be coming back to the people that you're working with and surrounding yourself around to make sure that you're kind of getting the best guidance and knowledge on the best way to do it. And business owners, we're notoriously really good at what we do, but we're working in the business, not on the business. It sounds cliche, but it really is that scenario that you need someone almost independent to come in and say, hey, pat on the back, things are going good, but we could do it better. And those that aren't reviewing things, or, the common thing is, I'd have to check in with the accountant and see how things are going. Well, how across everything are you when it takes 4 months to get year-to-date accounts through, or you can't answer certain questions around how your business is performing? They're not red flags for me, but they give a kind of indication to maybe that person is too involved in the day-to-day business side and they're not looking at the numbers. And I guess from those key indicators, we can kind of say, well, how across things are you really, and how much are you potentially leaving on the table or missing out on by not having these things? And again, that could be financially, or that could just be family time. You're at home, you're spending time with your kids, and you're actively engaged with them, not thinking about bloody tomorrow and how am I going to get wages paid, or who am I going to have to call to get a temporary overdraft, or whatever that might look like.
Yeah, because that's it. So many business owners do. They just feel like they're spinning plates at the minute, and the bank account level often has a very clear correlation with their mood.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So. And if that's the one number you're looking at, again, that can be a pretty dire story, right? So, I just really want all small business owners now, of course, being accountants, we always want our clients to be on top of the accounts, but just have that plan, because it might be rough, but the plan gives you peace of mind and makes you present for your kids, makes you present in running the business.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's not a surprise, hey, look, mate, we're going through, everyone's hurting at the moment, but you guys are doing pretty well. You're not losing money. You're paying your bills on time. We've just got to hunker down and we've got to get through this, and we will get through it. That's business. But I think at the moment, the way that things have been playing out over the last 3-4 years, it's probably some of the most challenging time in business in the last sort of 20-30 years. The only probably comparisons the GFC times, but again, it's been brutal.
Yeah, and the reality is this though, is that the GFC, when it hit in Canterbury, kind of like a little bump.
Yeah.
So another thing that I'm finding is there's a lot of business owners our age or within 5-10 years of our age. So actually you're way younger than me. Okay, so we'll call it 30 to 45. They've never actually worked through really tough economic times.
Yeah.
And even COVID, there was stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
GFC, kind of little bump in the road.
Yeah.
This bit could be bad, and we've not lived through it before.
Correct. And the other part is, I think there's been a change with the way that staffing plays out now, right? People don't stay in careers for 10, 15, 20 years. And I guess key thing that I see across a lot of business and commercial clients is you look at the banking system, for example. When I started out as a wee whippersnapper in banking, I was surrounded by people with 15, 20 years banking experience. The exposure at a young age that I could get to industries that I never would have come across, people management, the way that you approach things, problem resolution with businesses and staff, and even just the information that was available as a banker to provide to clients. We would go out to, say, a business and say, look, the merchant report that we've pulled on your trading for the last month, obviously your marketing's going really well because your demographic of 30 to 40 year olds are coming in and they're spending on average $70 per transaction. Keep that marketing up to that designated part of the sector. So there was a lot of free information to provide and input and guidance, and I think that's probably been lost over the last sort of 10 to 15 years, where a lot of employees are wanting to jump up to the next thing, and so they'll be 12, 18 months in a row and then they're moving off, and so that experience isn't really getting transferred down. And if you're a startup business and you're wanting to go from 100k turnover to $1 million, 10 million, what's the roadmap and who's going to guide you? I've dealt with a client just recently who's in the startup phase, and they're looking for assistance, and they're first year looking to turn over 5 million. How do we get a business with not a $3,000 overdraft or business loan to 5 million? There's some significant costs that are incurred. So where do we start? And I think that's where the accountants, brokers are picking up that kind of slack and guidance around that, and that's a key position.
And those people are almost having to go to the bank, hey, I know you've got these products, so can I have some? Because it's not coming the other way, is it?
No, and the funny thing is that they're going to the bank, probably getting turned away, and then they're coming because they don't know where to start. At the immediate reaction is you go and apply for something. You don't really know what you're applying for, and we have these conversations or overviews with the likes of yourself, the startup business, and say, well, working capital, what do we need? Well, we've got 2 staff. On average, they're costing X amount a week. Where our payment terms are 60 days, 90 days with the work that we do. So we know straight away that you've come in and you've been wanting a $5,000 overdraft, but we're going to need 20, 30k to get you through. And it's just those conversations off the bat, and that allows someone to then go out, grow that business, and again reassessing what we put in place for the first 6 to 12 months. That will be probably redundant at that 12-month mark if we hit those targets. So again, it's just that catching up, reviewing things, and spending the time on it. It may be a pain in the ass at the time when you're so busy, but hey, you'll reap the rewards of it later on.
Yeah. And it's because there's that massive difference that so many people were just not tuned to know it. That difference between profit and cash. Yep. Right. And it's why spreadsheets are cool, right? It's when you go, I think I need $5,000, and you go, no, you need 25. Yep. Right. You just don't see it any other way because you think, well, no, I'm billing this, I've got this, and this makes money. Yep. I don't need much. Yep. But actually, it's gonna cost you 2 months of trading before you start getting paid. So, absolutely critical that you have this plan.
And just to harp on about it, that timeline, it's the same with, I'll see a lot of trades. So someone that's been in plumbing or Sparky builder, and they're looking to go out on their own, they may be looking at that for 2 years prior. And what we often see is they'll kick in the job, they'll contract back to the boss, and then they'll say, hey, look, I need 5, 10k to buy a vehicle or do these things. it's like a business when you're grooming it. You've got to set these things in place. So if you're a tradie looking to go out on your own and you've got a home, you've got equity, why would we not look to get maybe an offset account beforehand? That might be for some improvements around the house with a bit of scope for some other bits and pieces, so that you're set when you hit the ground running, contracting back to your old boss or out there having a crack. You've got those things in place. And it seems a bit ass about face, but that's the reality. And it takes an enormous amount of pressure off in doing that. And it's just timeline again, and there's no guidance on where to start or where to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, some parting words for you, right? We've got clients there now that they're running a business. Things are tight. What would your advice to them be now?
I'd be saying, come see me. That would be the first thing. Working with your accountant, get an overview, but come and see a broker or go and approach the bank around what can be done, what can be reviewed, because things may be working fine, and that's a success to look at an overview and say, hey, look, this is good, this is perfect. We wouldn't actually change anything. But you're getting that kind of exposure of different kind of backgrounds where you can say, hey, in this industry they do this, I think this might be applicable to you. Let's park a bit of business debt against the home, let's help with the cash flow, let's see what we can review in terms of your insurance, where there might be a specialist that we can flick you onto. It's just about getting it all clean and concise around what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. Are we growing? Are we just hunkering down, navigating? Horses for courses, really, in terms of we can't run before we can walk, and maybe sometimes adjusting those expectations on what's going to actually happen over the next 6 to 12 months.
Perfect. Just be realistic,
and honest as well, like with the information that you give your accountant or your broker or the bank. Be honest with what you're giving them. With us, sometimes we find that clients can give a bit too much information in the nitty gritty that it's not really applicable to the lending. It's not misleading or anything like that, but it's just, you're oversharing. Everyone's got that friend that overshares, right? So it's more around framing that up and presenting it in the best light. And I guess the example of that would be is a startup business. Sometimes they'll go and apply for certain things, and they won't even mention that they've got 10 years in the sector, or they're contracting back to their boss because their boss wants to retain them as a contractor because they're so valuable. They're key things that seem like a bit of oversight, but we frame that up and make sure that that's presented.
So
and
absolutely de-risks it.
But
correct, they were just going to keep it a secret.
Like it's a naughty secret that they shouldn't be sharing. So we as brokers we get an overview, and knowledge is power to some extent as well. So you don't know what you don't know, and if I was to put my boots on and go dig holes and try and lay concrete or whatever that would be, I'd have no understanding of where to start. So I would go to those people that know what they're doing and have that insight. So
awesome. Great. Hey, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And we'll make sure that all the contact details that you might be after will be wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. So thank you very much. And if you've enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks. Welcome to SidekickTV. I'm your host, Ric Thorpe. SidekickTV is the place for Kiwi business owners and entrepreneurs to learn all about finance, accounting, and how to run and operate a business in New Zealand. We're going to interview experts from the finance realm and fellow Kiwi business owners. Stay tuned.